really learn from him. So for the benefit of the people who who did not get a chance to hear from him or meet him that time, I'll quickly speak his bio, and then we'll delve into the class. His Grace Jagannath Priya Prabhuji is a practicing monk and a speaker on the Vedic literatures, namely the Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana, and Mahabharata, with a special interest in practical application of religion and spirituality at individual and social levels. He did his bachelor's in engineering and master's in Sanskrit. He served as director of special effects for films and TV before he took to the monastic life. Jagannath Priya Prabhu routinely conducts programs and seminars focused on dharma and leadership. He has been serving the devotee community in and around Mumbai for over 24 years now. So, on a personal note, I'll add that all four of us, myself, Anand Goranga Prabhu, Krishangi, and Dhanya Gopi, were highly inspired by Prabhuji's teachings. The classes and the conversations we had with him outside of the class. So please use this as an opportunity for a healthy Q&A after the class is over. And once again, thank you very much for joining, Prabhuji.
Looks like Prabhuji is disconnected or
Okay, Rasraj Prabhu, it's perhaps the connection from India. Let's allow him, a few seconds. Maybe he's having bandwidth issues.
no problem.
Haribol, can you all hear me?
Yes, Jagannath Priya Prabhuji, you're back on.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you for
don't know.
joining, Prabhuji. All yours now.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know how the call dropped. There was no issue here as such, but I don't know. Anyways.
That's okay.
ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणभामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna everybody. Glad to be amongst all of you this morning for you all. And I think it's Ekadashi for all of you today. A very auspicious Ekadashi, this Mohini Ekadashi. It's the Muhur which appears for this Ekadashi is coming once in 1,000 years. It is said by those who are expert in the Panchanga that this Ekadashi Muhurta is matching the timing or the planetary position of what it was during Maharaj Ambrish's time, the Ekadashi which Ambrish Maharaj did, on which Durvasa Muni had felt offended. Just for all of you who are following Ekadashi, it's a very, very rare occasion this time. So if you all can follow it nicely, please do as much as you can, as much chanting you can, as much as you can. Keep your mind and hearts absorbed in Harikatha on this day. Please try your best. Very happy to be amongst all of you. My humble obeisances to all the devotees who are managing the program, the leaders, the community leaders of Hartford congregation. My humble obeisances to all of you. Hare Krishna. So I was thinking to speak on the upcoming occasion of Narsingh Chaturthi, some pastimes which are related to which are from the 7th canto of Bhagavatam, related to the appearance of Sri Prahlad Maharaj, appearance of Narsingh Dev, killing of Hiranyakashipu, and the reciprocation of Narsingh Dev with Prahlad Maharaj. In the 7th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, this beautiful episode comes about a very special incarnation of the Lord, or avatar of the Lord. The word incarnation is not the right word to be used for the word avatar, because incarnation specifically means one who is bound to the flesh, right? As far as Krishna and his avatars are concerned, they are not bound to the flesh like all of us. So therefore, avatar is the right word for avatar. So in the avatar of Narsingh Dev, which is very glorified in our Vedic literature, there are many, many beautiful pastimes and lessons which we learn. Interestingly, those are considered one of the topmost lessons which a person or a bhakta can learn in devotional service. When we speak about Prahlad Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada at various places he explains, especially quoting the examples of Prahlad and Dhruv, that if a child is systematically trained from childhood in manners of devotional service, in the science of devotional service, it is possible that one may develop a natural attraction for the Lord and may develop a level of faith which we see in Prahlad or we see in Dhruv. However, these statements and these kind of pastimes must be understood in a very contextual way. States of consciousness, or let's say this level of devotion which manifests in our heart, these things cannot be forced. These things have to come. It has to evolve. You cannot force yourself to love God. This is very much very much of an important lesson which every devotee must understand. Every sadhak, every practitioner must understand that there is a gradual progression. In fact, when you read the Bhagavad Gita at umpteen number of places, Prabhupada uses this point: gradual progression. One will gradually progress. And sometimes in the rush of wanting to achieve things, we forget this principle of gradual growth, gradual upliftment, gradual progress, gradually going back to God. Like in material life, we see that many things do not follow the linear progress. And especially in Kali Yuga, you'll see this very often. Someone who is less intelligent than you may progress more than you. Somebody who is not so wise, he sometimes makes more money than you. And all those kind of things. So when you see the irregularities, when you measure growth in terms of wealth, success, and fame from external terms, you will always be bewildered, trying to see that how is this happening and all those things. And therefore, when such a mindset, which is trained to think in an abrupt way, when such a mind takes the Gita and Bhagavat in the hand and he hears about transcendental pastimes, the mind gets fascinated and then immediately thinks, yes, I also want to immediately receive, immediately go back to Godhead, immediately get all the progress, which is right. You can make progress and it can be very fast. But that word immediate or very soon has to be defined. Now that very soon and that word immediate takes can be debated, and it can be discussed in many uh, lengthy discussions as well, that way. So three things are very important in the aspect of Prahlad Maharaj's teachings. First of all, in this whole pastime, first is the devotion of Prahlad, then is the mental state on how Prahlad deals with his own understanding and with his own devotion, which is the aspect of application. And the third aspect is how we at our levels can practice and gradually progress in our process. See, the whole meaning of life is only in the progress of life. Now, the progress of life, as far as all the Vedic literatures are concerned, is very clear. The progress of life is told to be from an internal experience of quality of life itself. Progress from an external sense is measured by terms of wealth, by terms of power, by terms of fame, prestige, honor, respect, influence, etc. in the society and amongst people around you. But how Shastras deal with progress? They deal with progress by a very fundamental thing. Progress, dealing by from a Shastric perspective, from the Vedic literature perspective, is the very evaluation of life itself deep within your mind and your consciousness, which brings a sense of fulfillment. It simply means that measure the level of fulfillment you have in your life. That determines the level of progress you have made, or that determines the level of progress you have to eventually also make. So when we hear about these pastimes of Prahlad, there are many such things which come into, which make us think that this thing, although it appears so easy, you know, it's not so easy, but definitely it's not so difficult at all. Now, when we read the Bhagavatam, we understand that in fact, Prahlad received all the training in the womb itself. He was quite, he had prarabdha in his earlier lives. He must have done a lot of devotion. He was a devotee. All these things are there. But even in this particular lifetime, in the womb itself, he learned many things. And he, as soon as he was born, Bhagavatam explains that he was already a devotee who was fixed up in his consciousness. It is explained that the character of Prahlad Maharaj, it's explained that he was Krishna Graha Grahitatma. Like sometimes in our misfortune, those of you who have some exposure to Vedic astrology, you know, you understand that there is something called planetary positions in our charts, right? So at the time of birth, our charts are plotted, and based on those charts and the planetary positions, based on the planetary positions in those charts, one can, an expert person can predict or actually guide, provide some guidelines that these are the things bound to happen. This you can avoid, this you cannot avoid. This much is black, this much is white, this much is the gray zone. All that information is given in those charts. Now, very simply, try to understand this particular aspect now. Sometimes we have something like bad face, and at that time, many times people approach some astrologer and take some guidance, and then they may say something like that yours is the 7.5 year period, Sade Sati, you know, that Shani planet has possessed you, or he's ruling the charts. Guru is ruling the chart, Buddha or Mercury, or this planet is ruling in the ruling position, this is in a debilitated position, and so on, right? So influence of a common man's life is largely based on the planetary positions of the charts. And this is true for almost all the devotees. Or let's say not almost, it is true for 99% of our lives, for 100% of the devotees. There is an aspect of free will and bhakti which is totally unique, and its application will be seen in the course of our discussion only. But this whole concept of being possessed or being ruled by a planet, so this is very interesting, that in the case of Prahlad Maharaj, he is told, he is being described that he was a person who was possessed by a special planet. Now in astrology we have these 9 planets, right? Yeah, we have 9 planets. 2 of them are not planets, but they are considered planets. We have these 9 graha. But Prahlad Maharaj is described as Krishna Graha Grahitatma, that Prahlad Maharaj is a soul, is a person whose soul has been possessed by none other than Krishna. Krishna Graha means it's a metaphorical presentation, that if you want to see ki ye kya dasha hai, what is the state, why is this guy behaving like this? This issue was there with Hiranyakashipu, his father, who could not tolerate the devotion of his son. And he had this, why is he acting weird? Which ghost has possessed him, or which planet has possessed him? Why is he behaving like this? So he had been possessed by Krishna Graha. So that was his state right from the beginning. So this is one of the first things we should understand at our levels. That Prahlad Maharaj was a person possessed, whose consciousness was possessed by Krishna, or very absorbed in Krishna. We cannot immediately start equating ourselves by age, that okay, my child is also 4 or 5 years, and why he's playing with kids and he has to not do any of these things, he has to just chant the holy names and all of that. No, it doesn't really happen that way. You have to also see the psychological and mental disposition, right? So Prahlad was like that. We see in this whole pastimes how Hiranyakashipu tried to dissuade Prahlad from the whole process of bhakti. When Hiranyakashipu saw that Prahlad Maharaj is naturally attracted to Vishnu, now for Hiranyakashipu, Vishnu was an enemy, because Hiranyakashipu always thought that the only person who is left to conquer, who is still above him, is Vishnu. He had already created influence over Brahma and all the Devatas and all the heavenly and hellish planetary systems, lower and upper planetary systems. So the only problem was conquering Vishnu, the only enemy left to conquer. And seeing that he, in his own house, there is a person who loves Vishnu so much, he could not tolerate. And the impact of that hatred which he had for Vishnu was so much that he had cast Prahlad into such an ill treatment, such as throwing him in a pot of boiling water, throwing him in a pit of snakes, throwing him from the mountain peaks on sharp rocks, and so on. In all these episodes, when you see, what was the state of Prahlad? It is typically what we see in the Bhagavad Gita. It's explained. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kankshati. He had no lamentation, no hankering. He was just prasanna atma, absolutely peaceful, absolutely happy. And in fact, just recently, I was questioned by one devotee who told me that if Hiranyakashipu tortured Prahlad and Narsinghdev appeared to protect Prahlad, why did Lord Narsinghdev not protect his own temple, which was destroyed by the Mughals so many hundreds of years ago? This is a typical history of India, where many temples were destroyed. So he was telling, why did Narsinghdev not protect himself? Right? So we'll come to that discussion now. So, but what was Prahlad? Na shochati na kankshati. In fact, Prahlad did not even pray for protection. This is a very, very important lesson which we all need to reflect upon. This shows his level of consciousness, this shows his mind. Often we do speak like this, and it is also quoted that Hiranyakashipu came to protect his devotee. It's a pastime where we learn that how the Lord protect his devotees and all of that. That's very true. But Prahlad Maharaj did not seek protection. Nowhere in the pastimes we see that Prahlad Maharaj is saying, my dear Lord, please save me from this hellish person. Please save me from this demon. He's going to destroy my life, my career, my opportunities, my this and that, and how good I am, how many good things I'm doing in life, how many good plans I have, and I'm going to be the greatest, one of the greatest person who has the noblest of the hearts, who wants to help mankind. And this person is trying to stop such noble desires. Nothing like that. Prahlad Maharaj did not pray any of that. In fact, the faith of Prahlad did not even shake or move little bit also. There was no increment in his faith, neither there was decrease in faith. When we talk of somebody's faith to increase, that means there is not enough faith. There is enough vacuum where you can still increase. And when we talk of decreasing faith, that also means that the faith is not fully established. For a person whose faith is absolutely established in God, there is absolutely no question of increment or decrement. For such a person, he does not even care whether his physical body survives or not. When Prahlad was being thrown in the hot boiling pot, he accepted that as the mercy of the Lord. And he said, the Lord is there even in this hot water. The Lord is there in the pit of snakes. The Lord is there on the mountain, below the mountains, everywhere. Everywhere the Lord is there. That was his level of consciousness. So look at the level of consciousness. Look at how he was, what his mental state was there during the application of his faith. Consider that in any ordinary sadhak's case. He may read the pastimes and dream that now I also want to live a life like Prahlad, continuously just doing Hari Kirtan and this and that. But you know, little bit things going wrong here and there, and see how the peace of mind, Prasanna Atma, Prahlad Maharaj's pastimes, when you read, you will see that he is Prasanna Atma, always peaceful, always blissful. As if he had nothing to achieve from this world, nothing to gain, nothing to lose, nothing to lose. When a person has no afraid of death and his body, that is what is called as Brahma Bhuta. That was his state. In fact, Prahlad Maharaj speaks to his teachers. He says, Yatha Brahmyati Aho Brahman Swayam Akarsha Sannidho Tatha Me Bhidyate Chetas Chakra Panir Yaditchaya. That he says that just as iron is attracted by magnetic by a magnet. You know, when you bring a iron near a magnet, what happens? It just naturally gets attracted. It just sticks to it. So he's saying that in similar fashion, my consciousness is attracted to Chakrapani. Chakrapani means one who holds chakra in his pani, means hands. My consciousness is naturally driven to Vishnu. And he says, thus I have no independence. Look at the state of consciousness. Because he already has that state of consciousness, naturally he can have a state of exhibiting his faith in a natural way, where he's not superimposing that, okay, I am so fearful, I have been chanting, but I am fearful whether this thing will happen or not, and I hope everything really works fine. I have chanted, I have done my puja, I did my donations, I did my service, and now today in this time of need, I wish everything, I want to encash everything I did. That simply means our faith is not fixed up. That simply means that our consciousness is not driven towards Vishnu. Our consciousness is driven towards so many things which we want to achieve and yet are remaining to be achieved. So, in such a state, how can we naturally be peaceful? It is not possible. But it is okay. That's a different stage. How we are going to, that will be the later part of our discussion. But I'm just trying to describe how Prahlad Maharaj's consciousness was like an iron naturally driven towards a magnet. When you bring a magnet and iron together, it's a difficulty to take the iron away from the magnet. That's a challenge. And what is our challenge? Our challenge is difficult. Our challenge is that we have a difficulty despite all the efforts done by Prabhupada and many of his disciples in the early days and so many of the teachers of current times doing so many efforts and teachings and temples and festivals and prasad and kirtans and musical instruments and YouTube and this and that, whatever, the amount of support system we have today is mind-boggling. Despite all of that, look at what state of how we as a civilization are today. So weak in our faith, so fragile in our faith. Every little thing, people are more and more disturbed. They get affected so soon. They become hopeless so soon. You know, and in fact, it's a weird thing happening. Early days, young people used to be the ones who would take the responsibility of the elder generation. Now it's going in a weird direction. Today, so much of time and effort is being given just to take care of youth. They are the most misguided, uh, confused generation, having too much information at their fingertips, but actually having no idea of how to apply what, when, and where. Very fragile consciousness. So anything can disturb. Despite such a big support system, anything can disturb. Imagine this couple of decades ago when the preaching started happening all over the world. What support system did Prabhupada have, or the early days, all those devotees who did those services, what did they have? And in what circumstances they served and created a facility which we enjoy today. So this has to be taken into consideration. When we read the aspects of Prahlad, we see that Prahlad was not seeking too much of external support system. His mind was driven towards Vishnu by what? Not by too much of external support system, by the very fact of understanding the truth itself. So devotees or as sadhakas, we all need to practice or need to cultivate our own selves in such a manner that our faith towards chanting the holy names, our faith towards Krishna is such that it is exclusively driven to Krishna just for the purpose of Krishna itself and for the sake of chanting itself, not because of 10 support systems which we have and because after doing all of this I'm going to get so many other things. As long as the dependencies are more and more and more, it's like the rust on the iron. The attraction will be weaker and weaker. So we have to cultivate that, and these things are these things are matters of cultivation only. Many times when we sometimes read these pastimes, we feel that, oh, Prahlad Maharaj was so fortunate. The time of Satyuga was so good. In Satyuga, everything was fine. But this is Kali Yuga. You have no idea. There is a lot of problems. And it's not like that. Even during Prahlad Maharaj's time, please understand this. And please excuse my current political observations, which I'm going to make. But Prahlad Maharaj was living in an environment which was controlled by Hiranyakashipu, who was an anti-dharmic person. He had absolutely no idea, no plan to have a control in such a way that it will align to the natural order of the universe. His idea was everything has to work by according to his whims. Of course, he was very intelligent, more intelligent than the current Western civilizations. He knew how much of the Vedic things to take so that things should progress. But he should be at the that apex of everything. He should be the controller. If anything doesn't work his way, then he will go to destroy that at all costs. And he had a schooling system which was very regimented to teach all the students in manners of politics, art, diplomacy, commerce, and the sciences in a way that they serve only exclusively the interests of Hiranyakashipu and had nothing related to Atma or soul or consciousness at all. So that we see even today. We have schooling systems which have we have all the education systems which has all these exact things which used to be there even during the time of Prahlad Maharaj. And in fact, it was even worse. During Prahlad Maharaj's time, people did not have freedom of speech to speak anything and everything, especially in the school. In modern times, we have universities which allow something called as free speech. We need to respect that aspect of the civilization today. Yes, we condemn the modern civilization to great extent, but condemning countries just because they do not have a typical holy place like in India, that doesn't make sense at all. So I would say that Prahlad Maharaj, he was governed by Shanda and Amarka, who were actually the sons of Shukracharya, the guru of the demons. So in that school, you were trained with all facilities except minus anything which relates to Atma Gyan. And not only that, you must be learning this very clearly that Vishnu is your default enemy. Now, you have not experienced how Vishnu is an enemy, but because Hiranyakashipu has determined that Vishnu is our enemy, you are supposed to understand that particular thing. So this is something like a very communistic ideology, communistic regime. When I first started coming to ISKCON, I remember meeting, I think Divya Rath Prabhu or somebody from Germany during his time. He was telling that one of Prabhupada's disciples, he was telling that during their times there was East Germany and West Germany, and both were, it was a very dangerous time at that time, and how many difficulties they went through in preaching. And he showed me the marks of bullets on his body because Gita, anybody talking anything about religion was banned. You know, those were the days. Even in Russia, this thing was there. And anybody speaking religion was banned. And exactly same situation is there in many places in China and so many other countries of the planet, where the government officially does not encourage religious things. And if there is an active religious thing going on, then it is stopped. I'm talking about religion of any matter. So one thing is that government is atheistic by nature, but it allows you to practice your things. And another thing is that government does not allow you to do. During Hiranyakashipu's time, that was the time of governance. That was the style of governance. You could not think about any of these things. So Shanda and Amarka were very particular. There was no space to even speak the truth or share even a doubt. Let's say that you have not seen Vishnu, but you cannot also say that maybe there is a truth beyond what we see. That also you cannot create even an hypothesis. That was that time. So we need to understand that even during Satyug times, although it was a holistic time period, there were pockets, or there were phases in that time period where the demoniac forces were governing. So at that point of time, Hiranyakashipu had absolute control over the speech and authority of what should be discussed and be going around in the world. Imagine that level of control and authority is not there in this planet right now for any one particular country. We still have so many people doing revolutions and this and that. In Hiranyakashipu's time, it was unthinkable. If the Devtas cannot do anything, what can an ordinary person do? It's out of question, right? So we need to appreciate that. Sometimes devotees say, or many people say, oh, United States, or Western civilization is a hellish civilization. Or sometimes they abuse countries. I feel, no, that's not right. Any country, any land does not belong to any specific government or just some few mortals. Mortals come and go, they rule for some time, they have an influence for some time, but that's not their natural authority over it. The 12th canto, Bhumi Devi prays. She says that Samudra avaranam jitva mam vishanti abhidham ojasa kiyad atma jayasyaitam muktir atma jayafalam. She says that after conquering all the lands on my surface, which are all the lands of the surface which are governed by the covered by the oceans, all these kings, then they want to control the oceans, they want to control the mountains, and etc., etc. And she says that the whole purpose of wanting to control, a living entity has a tendency to control, right? That tendency has been given as a gift of God to control your own senses, not to control others or not to control the facility. The Bhumi, she says that she's a Bhumi, she's a supporting. She's the Dharti. Dharti means that which supports. She's a support mechanism for the living entities so that they can control their own senses, and then what Muktir Atma Jayaphalam. The whole purpose of controlling propensity is to control your own mind senses and then achieve mukti, not aim for any political exploitation of the land. And she prays that just see what has happened. So many people in the past, they have come, and everybody comes and thinks that I am hers, I am her, I am his, I am his, I am his. All the kings are saying, when a new king comes, a new leader comes, a new political authority will come, he'll say, I have control over this land is mine, or it has to work. So Bhumi is saying, every king is saying that I am his, I am his. But she says, look, still I am here, and those kings are nowhere. And millions and millions and millions of such kings come and go. And foolishly, helplessly, and very beautiful, she says, Gata yatha agatam yuddhe tam mam jeshyanti abuddhaya. Just like how these people came helplessly on this planet when we are born, how nobody is born as a king. People are born helpless. Somebody has to hold you. You don't even know how to breathe. Somebody has to slap you very hard just so that you take your first breath and your lung starts functioning. Otherwise, we are in a highly developed COVID situation, kind of, that where the lungs do not function unless you get a proper slap. So that's why they shake the baby or they make it cry so that the lungs start opening up, right? So Bhumi Devi is saying, just as a person enters helplessly in this world, exactly in the same way that person helplessly leaves this planet, but in between he tries to govern me. So it's not right to have that controlling mentality. This is what Bhumi Devi is saying in the 12th canto of Bhumi Gita, that chapter. So here, when we see Prahlad Maharaj's situation, it is that kind of situation where Hiranyakashipu wants to control the planet. We should understand that whether we are in America or Europe or in India or Saudi Arabia, every place is a holy place. Yes, there are specific places where the pastimes have taken, and therefore they are more holier than the others. But Bhumi Devi herself, she is a property of the Lord. So it's a holy place. Wherever you are, you do good things. Nature is serving Krishna. The nature belongs to Krishna. The whole creation belongs to him. So how can we differentiate that way? So keeping this in mind, we engage in our uh, in our duties. So we should understand that we are, at least most of us, from consciousness, we may not be better. We are definitely not near to Prahlad, but from the point of view of external situations, we are far more better placed than how Prahlad Maharaj was and the kind of situation he was. He had a challenge at his level. Our level of challenges are very, very simple. We have abundant facilities. We are not starving for food or not starving for starving from comforts also. We may have probably problems with not having luxuries, but for most of us, we have a reasonable comfort thing. That's not a problem. And we have a civilization where we can speak. Prahlad Maharaj could not speak anything. In such a situation, when Prahlad Maharaj first came back home, Hiranyakashipu was very pleased, when your child first starts going to school and then he comes and you want to learn, okay, what did you want to speak to him? What did you learn today? And so on. So coming from Gurukul, he wanted to know. So it is explained how Hiranyakashipu, when he saw Prahlad, he was so affectionate to him that he has come from his first few months from being in the school. So he took Prahlad on his lap and very affectionately he asked him, my dear Prahlad, please tell me, what did you learn in this school of Shanda and Amarka? What did your teachers teach you? What was your favorite subject? What did you learn? Tell me. And it's explained. Look at the answer of Prahlad. Prahlad Maharaj says, he says, Tat sadhu manye suravarya dehinam sada samudva vigna dhyam asadgrihat hitvatmapatam grihamandhakupam vanam gato yadharimashrayeta. He says, my dear father, I learned from my teachers, from my guru, that one who has accepted this temporary body, and having accepted this temporary body, you need a temporary facility, namely house, wife, children, and so on. He says, but for such a person, such a life is compared to like a dark well, where once having fallen in that place, there is no hope of recovery. It only creates some form of suffering. So one has to get rid of his conditioned stage and give up that position of ignorance and go to Vanamashraya. Go to Vana means forest in contextual sense. Basically, you seek for higher truths. So Prahlad Maharaj says, this is what I have learned. Griham andakupam hitvata patam griham andakupam vanam gato yad dharim ashraya. Go to Vana, go to the forest and Hari ashraya. Take an ashraya, take shelter of Hari. Imagine, see, sometimes we hear this as story. Why I discuss the political situation? Imagine this thing. Imagine that you are in a heart of Saudi Arabia, where you are not allowed to speak about Hari or any other religion, or you are in a country like China where even private discussions of religion are not allowed. It's very restricted. You have to be doing hiding. Imagine there you speak to the king or to the leader this particular aspect, that this whole system which you have created is just a waste. One should go and seek shelter of Hari. Try to imagine this. Hiranyakashipu's enemy is Vishnu, and he is telling that not taking shelter of Vishnu is the biggest problem of the conditioned soul. That is the first lesson which Prahlad Maharaj speaks to Hiranyakashipu. Imagine, consider the level of courage. Imagine if we are put in such situation, how much could we speak about this? To exactly glorify that person whom the person hates, the most powerful, the one who hates, the most powerful person, he hates somebody and you are glorifying that person. This is what Prahlad Maharaj did. Immediately it is explained, Hiranyakashipu felt so uncomfortable and so frustrated that he pushed his son from his lap. He just took him. This is unthinkable. Look at the amount of hatred that a father who has seen his cute little young child coming from Gurukul after a couple of months, how much he would be feeling naturally affectionate. But he actually, and then he summons Chanda and Amarka. What is this boy speaking? What has happened? How have such ideologies permeated in that school? Chanda and Amarka actually beg for forgiveness. They say that we have no idea how this person is speaking like this. And please rest assured, Hiranyakashipu, nothing, there is not even there is not an unknown bird who could be a messenger which enters the Gurukul. We have no idea absolutely. So he says, okay, never mind. He's speaking all these kind of things. It appears that he has influence of some Vaishnava. Please take care that none of the kids are talking all of this. This is typically a hardcore brainwashing civilization which Hiranyakashipu had kept. No space whatsoever to speak about the truth. One should understand this aspect, especially these days when people are very politically active, people want to make opinions on Facebook, Twitter and all. And although I do not appreciate the materialistic civilization, but in this whole spectrum of the best bargain which we could have, one needs to understand that there are many good things which have been given by many different governments of the world in their own political spaces. A Vaishnava must be smart enough to take advantage of those value systems which are good enough that we can use to cultivate bhakti in our lives and help others and serve the civilization that way, instead of living in that perpetual thought process that wherever I am, it's a hellish condition, this world is hellish, everything. Undoubtedly, see, the world is hellish not by itself. The world is hellish because we and our own consciousness has created hellish. By itself, nature is beautiful. If we do not do wrong things, nature takes care of itself. So when the whole meaning of world being hellish is not exactly Prakriti becoming hellish. It is more about we dealing with Prakriti in a hellish way. And therefore we experience that thing all around us. Otherwise, it's a far more better situation today than it was in the couple of 1,000 years ago also. You can speak, you can evolve, you can discuss, all those things are there. Of course, now because of the advent of the new version of Maya, which is the social media, there is a lot of confusion in people. And in fact, people's independent thought process is getting destroyed. People are becoming opinions of groups. The individuality is getting destroyed. People are not having their own opinions, their own intelligence. They have a group opinions and group intelligence. That is a totally anti-dharmic way. See, from this pastime, you see what kind of society Prahlad Maharaj, what kind of society Hiranyakashipu was creating, and what kind of resistance Prahlad Maharaj was giving, and the method of resistance also very different. He was not influenced by the external propaganda, but at the same time, he had fresh thoughts. He did not have rotten opinions about even retaliation. He had fresh thoughts to retaliate, to speak, to raise a voice against authority also, against the political authority which was his father. And that was pretty graceful, very strong, very determined, but very graceful also. So Prahlad was sent to the school. Shand and Amarka thrusted the whole knowledge in his brain again, trying to teach him the science of authority, also telling him that, you know, you are the son of such a great demon king Hiranyakashipu. By default, you are going to inherit the world. So you need to learn the art of diplomacy and all those things, and appreciate what your father has created for you. All that was taught. Prahlad Maharaj agreed to that. He understood that there is no point in arguing with teachers, but he did not stop his preaching to the people whom he could influence. This is another thing which sadhaka should learn. Do not challenge an authority whom you cannot deal with. I'm talking of political authorities. Any person who is beyond you, he is beyond your influence, he is beyond your adhikar. In fact, even in case of dealing with seniors, suppose somebody is very senior to you, it is not in your adhikar to challenge him or to uh, or to discourage him, or or to debate with him. If it is not your adhikar, then don't waste your time in those things. Approach somebody who can do that work for you, or you approach it in a way that it becomes a formal appeal. Wild forms of challenge and blurting out and all those things don't really work, and it seems in the pastimes of Prahlad you see this very well. Prahlad did not unnecessarily provoke Shanda and Amarka. Neither he provoked his father until his father or the teachers asked him about his opinion. He did not share. But meanwhile, Prahlad was very actively talking to his own friends and to those people whom he thought that these are people who are whom I have some adhikar as a friend. Adhikar means the natural right. Like to friends, you can freely speak. So that art of communication is also seen here. That Prahlad, he protected his faith by means of preaching the message. In fact, just a couple of days ago, I was telling one devotee, he's in America only and going through tough time. I told him that, you know what, if you are in an environment where there are no devotees whatsoever, don't worry. The power of Shravan is so amazing. By even though you know all the knowledge, when you you get into difficulty, you want to hear that same knowledge from somebody else's mouth. The same words of wisdom, those very same words of wisdom which you have given to so many other people in their times of need, you need those exact same words of wisdom in your time of need. But then just you knowing it doesn't really work. It has to come from somebody else. If somebody else tells you those things, then you feel nice. So I was just telling him, if you feel that you have no devotee friends anywhere, don't worry. Just take the Bhagavad Gita, knock your neighbor's door and tell that, you know, the problem is with me. My mind is not sane and I need some help and I need counseling. It doesn't matter whether you have any counseling skills or not. Just read this Gita for me. You read for me and you instruct. Just repeat that same word. And really it works. Go to any person and tell, take this. See, most people don't know. But imagine that you are in an environment where you have absolutely no person who knows philosophy, who understands Gita, who knows what a difficulty a sadhak goes through dealing with mind, senses, consciousness, and so on. Trying to follow the righteous life, trying to live a righteous life amidst all this chaotic situation. It's a challenge. So what will you do? You cannot keep complaining that there is no devotee. But we have the Gita. Take it. Just request someone whom you know, some storefront owners, anybody, just go somewhere and tell, can you just read this for 10 minutes to me because I need help. But it works. It strengthens one's faith so much. Prahlad Maharaj created his own association by his own preaching. In case of Srila Prabhupada also we see, Prabhupada said, who was there for Prabhupada? He did not, as an old man, he was a person rejected from his family, a person rejected by his god brothers, a person discouraged by his god brothers. Let's say that god brothers say that, okay, you do whatever you want, you are not part of us. That is one thing. But when you are trying to do something, you are being discouraged. That was his condition. No money, no facilities, old age, no communications. It means having a dialect or having the English he speaks is of a Bengali accent, you know. So that kind. No tools for propaganda. Today we have publicity, we have websites, internets, and we have internet and websites and all those things. We push and we publicize our efforts. Nothing was there. And despite all of that, Prabhupada says that I created my own association by means of preaching. Right? So this is how Prahlad Maharaj protected his faith, although he was a minority on the planet at that time. During Hiranyakashipu's time, minority. Everybody was scared of him. Even the Brahmanas were serving Hiranyakashipu. When you read Ramayana, you will see that it explains when Hanuman first entered Lanka, he saw that the Brahmanas in Lanka were better chanters of Rigved and Yajur and all Vedic mantras than the Brahmanas who were there in Ayodhya. Ravan had better people because he knew that Vedic chanting and Vedic puja and yagyas and all those things, and he was master of all those knowledge, Ravan. So, and he employed masters also, so experts in that, astrology, etc., whatever is there. The best form of doctors, Ayurveda or that Vedic style of healing and etc. They were best was there in Lanka, even in Hiranyakashipu's time, but not. Don't talk about Vishnu, and I am the source authority in everything on this. That was his mentality. So Prahlad was definitely, just like Sita was a minority in Lanka, the singular person like that. Prahlad was like that, but still he kept preaching, he kept sharing that let's not waste our lives in these materialistic things. Let's focus on the truth. Materialistic things are required for the sake of maintenance of the body, and that those things have to be done well. But the good and bad of those things are just limited to the body. Once the body is finished, everything is finished. Let's focus on the eternal truth. Let's focus on Atma and all that thing Prahlad used to discuss with his friends. Teachers did not know what's happening. Teachers thought that after now, after the second phase of his brainwash, they told his father that he is now ready to come home and you should just talk to him. So Hiranyakashipu, it's explained. Now that was a couple of months later. Hiranyakashipu wanted to see that what is the change in Prahlad. Has he matured? So it's explained that when Prahlad first approached Hiranyakashipu, he offered prostrated obeisances. Dandavat pranam. Not like that, okay, just like we will offer obeisances to Vishnu, but if we have a father like a demon. Now, how many of us will, if you have a deity of Hiranyakashipu, how many of you will offer, if there is a deity of Hiranyakashipu, how many of you will offer obeisances? None of us. But for Prahlad, he was his father. So he fell at his feet, he offered obeisances. When Hiranyakashipu saw this, he thought that my son's brain has been cleansed of the impurities of Vishnu by the great teacher Shanda and Amarka. Good. So he picked up his son, thinking that now he has realized he's now become one with me. And out of affection, it is explained, there were tears in the eyes of Hiranyakashipu. He felt so happy that Prahlad has fallen at my feet, and he from his heart he showered blessings and he embraced his child just like any father would embrace. And then he asked him, my dear son, tell me the most beautiful thing that you have learned in this couple of months. Now this was the second phase, the second time. The first time Prahlad had told that how material life is useless, it creates a lot of conditioning. Prahlad was not disrespectful towards material life, but he said it has its own problems, it has its own limitations in that. Now, second answer of Prahlad, when Hiranyakashipu asked, what did you learn? He says, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Smaranam Padasevanam, Archanam Vandanam Dasyam, Sakhyam Atma Nivedanam, Iti Pumsarpita Vishnu, Bhaktischena Navalakshana, Kriyeta Bhagavati Adha, Tanmanye Adhitam Uttamam. He says, my dear father, Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing, speaking about the holy names of the Lord, Vishnu Smaranam, remembering the form, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, Archanam, offering prayer, offering worship to the Lord, Atma Nivedanam, Dasyam, becoming his servant, Atma Nivedanam, considering the Lord as one's friend, and so on. Tan manye adhitam uttamam. In my opinion, this is the best of all knowledge and it's the best of all activities which we can do. Now imagine Hiranyakashipu's state. Earlier time, in the first meeting when Prahlad had come from the school, he had not told that at that time he had not explicitly told about the process. He just said that yes, one should take shelter of Hari to save oneself from the problems of material existence. And second time he's telling now how to take shelter. So that means his faith has developed even more, or or the communication he's doing, that is even more precise, that my dear Lord, my dear Father, by the means of Shravan, Kirtan, Smaran, Padasevan, Archan, Vandan, Dasyan, Sakhya and Atma Nivedan, by this Navavida Bhakti, by these 9 processes, one can take shelter of Hari. So first he told one should take shelter of Hari, now he's telling the process of taking shelter of Hari. Obviously Hiranyakashipu was so frustrated, he got so upset and he threw the child again. And then he told that now he must be punished. It is enough. He is going to pollute the consciousness of all the other kids. And then we hear about all those pastimes of how Prahlad Maharaj was thrown in a pit of snakes, in boiling water and from mountains. And Prahlad Maharaj all the time absolutely did not even seek protection of the Lord. Neither he resisted his father, because he knew that he does not have that physical energy and the position to actually challenge his father. Because his father told that you speak what you learned and what is the truth. So he spoke what he learned and what was the truth. But meanwhile, he was situated. And then we hear that the faith was challenged to such a level that one day the father took it so personally because the son could not be killed by any other means. In fact, Shanda and Amarka, they say, when they were challenged, that how is this that this child is speaking like this again? I told you to take care of these affairs. So Shanda and Amarka said that my dear Hiranyakashipu, or my dear master, they tell to Hiranyakashipu. They say that the intelligence of this person, Prahlad, it is Naisargiki. Naisargiki iyam asya matir. That the matir of this person, the mati means the intelligence of this Prahlad is Naisargiki. It is just natural. Nobody has told him any of these things. It is just natural. He is naturally driven towards Vishnu. He is naturally driven towards Dharma. He is naturally going to do the right things. He is naturally a devotee. That is why when we say this title, Bhakta, sometimes we call newcomers as Bhakta. Right? We give a title, Bhakta so and so. But that title is a very big title. Bhakta means Prahlad, Bhakta Prahlad. Jaya Bhakta Prahlad. Bhakta means one whose intelligence, one whose mind, one whose consciousness is naturally drawn towards the truth. That is what is called as bhakta. So Hiranyakashipu did not actually come to protect Prahlad. Neither Prahlad actually asked for protection. For the conditioned souls on this planet who are trying to live up to the truth, through the protection of Prahlad, Hiranyakashipu is, sorry, not Hiranyakashipu, Narsinghdev. Narsinghdev did not come to protect Prahlad specifically, neither Prahlad asked protection from Narsinghdev. But to teach all of us conditioned souls, Narsinghdev appeared just to give an example that I can go to any extent to protect my devotee. That does not mean that we start testing the faith that way. Unless our faith is naturally driven, we don't do that. But Narsinghdev is, by that appearance, we are learning this particular principle. That even at the cost of our lives and consciousness, no matter where we are, what we do, we are not expected to challenge Hiranyakashipus. We are expected to just challenge our own little bit demons of desires who are actually disturbing our faith. When our small desires get disturbed, when they are not fulfilled, we feel that there is no God. So to protect that, the Lord appears in different forms through the system of encouragement to all of us through a support system. But it's high time that we learn to depend on the Lord exclusively without any of these support systems. The support systems are very much appreciated, they are very much needed, but they are still a support system. The Atma has to be naturally driven towards the Lord by its own capacities, on its own terms. That's the whole message we can learn by this whole episode of Prahlad Maharaj. His strong faith and his unflinching devotion, the ease at which he preaches, the ease at which he confronts the big problems. And despite all of that, he's still respectful towards his father. He does not agree, but he's respectful. So all these nuances are learned very nicely in this whole pastime. I think we are falling short of time. I'd like to stop here. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्री नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय, श्री प्रहलाद महाराज की जय. Any questions or comments? Please, most welcome. प्यारे प्रभु, please comment.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. This is Pranand Govindas. Such a wonderful enlightenment, you gave, and how we can take shelter wherever we are. It's just not seeking shelter just from the externals, but it is more calling the, within, and understanding that by completely absorbed consciousness, we can overcome any of the hurdles which we have. Thank you, Hari. I'll let it.
Jagannath-Puri Prabhu, thank you so much. I felt like your whole lecture was directed towards me. Thank you. This is Geeta Mala Mataji. So I found that what you said, that we're always looking for a support system, that we should exclusively depend on Krishna. I love that statement. And we're always looking for some material desire to be fulfilled, not recognizing that everything in this material world is like, false and nashwar, and not something we should be seeking at all. So thank you so much. Your lecture was very wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Prabhu, I also learned one aspect you shared, right? When you are feeling low, just go and ask someone and read Bhagavad Gita. Maybe we can utilize that as a good preaching opportunity as well. Just knock the doors. I need help. Can you read? And that's how people will engage in Krishna consciousness. So that aspect was really good. Bro, I had an observation. Again, it may sound dumb, but I really want to ask that. as much as you hear, continue here, it feels like there is, with all due respect, more benefit in being a demon than devotee because you get to have all the fun, and then the supreme personality of Godhead himself appears and you are destroyed by him. So like the body at least. So how do you, would you comment on that observation?
See, many people say this, and I have heard this from many devotees that it's better to just be a demon and do what you like and become demoniac, and then one day Krishna will come and kill, and then you get mukti. But no, see, a demon of that grade where the Lord has to come and kill is a very different thing. It requires as much tapasya like a devotee. Hiranyakashipu did tapasya for 10,000 years. Now, that's not the level of tapasya which a sadhak also does. Yes, we have rishis and munis doing tapasya for those many years, but large part of that is because they also want some mystic powers and abilities, that siddhis and all of that. But especially from the point of view of bhakti, for us tapasya is only, or tapasya has value only as much as it is going to the proportion it is going to help us increase that attraction towards Krishna. A bhakta is not a kind of a person who wants to do tapasya for some kind of siddhi or benefit, right? Neither for bhukti, neither for mukti. Chaitanya Charitamrita says, na, bhukti mukti siddhi kami sakali ashanta Krishna bhakta nishkama ata eva shanta. It's a very, very beautiful statement. Bhukti mukti siddhi. One who is hankering for bhukti means material pleasures, one is hankering for siddhis or mystical perfections, powers, or even if one is hankering for mukti means, if a devotee has that kind of restlessness, I want to go this life only. See, there's difference between restlessness and eagerness. A devotee being restlessness, I am this life only, I have to go back to Godhead, so I want to do more parikramas, I want to do more service, I want to do all the service, I will do, I will control, I will have this, I will do this, and he starts hyperventilating on all aspects of the principles of bhakti. That is called a mukti kami, means it is the same material desire that with that urge you want to go. It's like, because I see this is frustrating and therefore I want that. No, but it is not based on that natural attraction for that thing. So bhukti, mukti, siddhi, kami, sakali, ashanti. It only creates a sense of restlessness and ashanti. To become a demon, 10,000 years of tapasya. To become Ravan, look at how many years of tapasya he did. To become Hiranyakashipu, to become Hiranyaksh, very much. Typically, a bhakta does not require any of those things. And it doesn't take so long. Prabhupada says that he quotes many acharyas who, Sridhar Maharaj and others, Sridhar Swami, they have said that typically when a person begins the process of bhakti, it generally takes 3 lifetimes to become perfect. And how these 3 lifetimes? Because it's going to take 200, 300 years to naturally mold our mind, and to, because that's the pace at which the things work. So it's okay. One devotee, one of my very good friends, he was telling me, when we are always focusing on the eternal truth, and once it is determined that bhakti is the process, and we have determined the ashray also, that okay, Krishna bhakti karna, so then it doesn't really matter so much that we are in this conditioned state now, or will be in a liberated state later. In any state we have to anyway serve, so might as well we'll serve in our conditioned state with our conditions which we have. Like I have the conditions of being in a city right now, at one place right now, and with the facility which I have, that's my condition in the body right now, like that. I remember this one thing of recently Pankajangri Prabhu, he passed away. The Pujari of Narsingh Dev in Mayapur, when he passed away. Jananivas Prabhu, who is his twin brother. Imagine, Jananivas Prabhu is a person, twin brother means they have shared the same space in the womb, went to the same school, same college, everything. They came to the Bhakti also same. They stayed in Mayapur all the time and they were in the DT worship department only. Can you imagine what a level of togetherness they have? Now when he died, so Jananiwas Prabhu was asked, so he said, we were serving here when I was in this, when he was here physically, I was serving with him. Now he doesn't have a body. I will also, when my body will go away, will be still serving together. That was his simple understanding. We were serving in our body state, we will serve in our Atma state later also. So for a devotee, once that is determined, one does not need to have that restlessness that demons get so many things and they get liberated and devotee has to do so many. No, nothing like that. In fact, it is a very difficult task to first become a demon, because you have to kill your consciousness so much that you cannot forgive yourself, and then you have to reach to a level of then appreciating yourself. First you will not be able, like if you start doing some sinful activities, the first stage of doing sinful activities is you will start hating yourself, you cannot forgive yourself. Then you have to go to the next stage to get habituated to doing that. So you have to kill your conscience, then you have to make it as a part of your character, and then you make it a part of your ego, that now you feel great in doing those things. And once that is established to the level of defeating devatas, and that's where Vishnu comes. Oh my God, what a terrific journey, what a terrible journey to make. So then it's a better to make a journey of a sadhak. Like Prahlad Maharaj, he does not care. Okay, even if I am, my body is destroyed, it is fine. What will happen? Body is anyways going to be get destroyed. In our case, we may consider, okay, I have so many inconveniences in life. Okay, it's okay. What a big deal. At least in most of our cases, we are not crippled, we are not disabled or called specially abled. You know, just having a normal life, just having opportunity to eat good food, offer Krishna Prasad and sleep nicely and discuss Krishna Katha. This itself is a very big blessing. Great, great yogis, munis, rishis are just living life for this particular thing. So it's, yeah, a person may think that demons get there or they could do whatever they wanted and they got liberated. No, it was a very tough task. It's easier to be a devotee. It's easier to be a liberated soul than to remain as a conditioned soul. That way.
Thank you, Prabhu. Excellent answer. Thank
Hare Krishna Jagannath Priya Prabhu. This is Amrit Keli Dasi and Anand Gauranga Das.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, he has a question, but before that, I'll say really nice class. I liked everything, but I particularly liked the point that you made about gradual progression to that pure state. Like, like very often, I personally start beating myself that, after 19 years of, Mangal Aarti and hearing and Kirtan and Prasadam, why do I still struggle with these impurities? So, but, I like the point where you said you have to gradually progress to that pure state. So thank you. I'll give it to Anand Gauranga Prabhu. He has a question.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, question regarding preaching. So you gave example of Prahlad Maharaj, that when Hiranyakashipu asked, what have you learned? His answer was very bold and straightforward. Like he didn't mold the answer or diluted the answer. Similarly, we have another example when Prabhupada came to Western world that didn't know about anything about Krishna Bhakti. Prabhupada was his preaching was also straightforward. Krishna is the Supreme Lord and we are part and parcel and we are not this body. But when sometimes we experience in our preaching, especially to the Westerners, it feels like sometimes like we have to mold our message and not go to Krishna straight away because they might not be able to take it or they might just go away. In fact, I have an experience, one Westerner friend, and she said, like, I like all this philosophy, that's great, but when you come to like Krishna is everything and Krishna is this, Krishna is that, somehow I feel like stepping back. right? So any suggestions, like taking the example of Prabhupada and Prahlad Maharaj, how do we apply that, in preaching or in talking to others who are not into Krishna consciousness? How
See,
should we
as far
introduce the
as
message?
see, preaching should be directly proportional to one's own faith and one's own practice. That is the first thing, because preaching should be something which is a byproduct, which is a natural byproduct of our own practice. That is the first thing. Aspects of most of us have a direct experience of uh, enjoying or experiencing the cultural aspects of Krishna bhakti, but perceiving the Lord directly is beyond us. So when we are actually speaking to somebody, this is what your friend says, that the other aspects are attractive, the philosophical aspects also, but when you make it personally towards Krishna per se, then that while conveying such a message, we have to be careful that in that format, but that aspect of Krishna is not part of our realization, but it is part of our understanding. So let's say that I have a person like that. I would share all the philosophic message, how material life, conditioned life, and everything is there. But aspects of Krishna, Ram, the avatars, and all those things have to be dealt. That aspect of what we call as God is referred to in our Vedic literatures in this fashion, and therefore we chant these names. So taking shelter of the name. So in the initial way, the indirect method may be good. At some point of time, seeing that that person is getting some kind of maturity in understanding, and he's okay to understand what the other aspect of Vedic literature is teaching and wants to know more, then we can say that, by the way, the name of God is Krishna, or this is how we consider God as this way because the scriptures teach this way, and we engage in worship and prayer in this particular form. So that is fine. One thing has to be understood, that especially there is a difference in Prahlad. Every preacher may have his style, but as far as your question was regarding Prahlad and Prabhupada, I'll tell something. Prahlad's style of conveying the message was very gracious, very gracious. He did not appear superimposing or pushing himself or having an agenda that I have to convert my father. No, a person will want to convert somebody only when he's superimposing something. अभी convert क्या करना, यही सच्चाई है. This is the truth. What is there to convert or not? You accept or not accept, my dear father, this is the truth. He was very gracious in that aspect. Hiranyakashipu was not a person who needed to understand the culture. He knew everything about Vedas and the culture and its scientific application. Vedas is an applied knowledge. It's not an opinion. The problem was he was not willing to give the credit to Vishnu. And Prahlad had only that much to convey, and that he conveyed graciously. When Prabhupada came, he had to do both these aspects, convey the basic philosophy and the owner of the structure. So he conveyed that. Very important part of Prabhupada's thing is that Prabhupada was an old man, and he told this many times. Whatever an old man and a young baby or a child, young child, a small child and old man, whatever they speak, people don't get offended. So many times he would also tell his own disciples, don't have the exact style of preaching the way he had, because he said that I am an old man, I can speak anything and people will still accept. They don't feel offended. But so we have to consider that also in our age, where we are, which environment we are in, while we convey the message. It is more important that a person gets attracted to the Vedic literatures because it has many takeaways, so that it becomes sustainable. Let's say somebody appreciates yoga and pranayama, and through that he wants to come to the aspect of attending kirtans, and then in kirtan they will like Hare Krishna chanting, they'll like so many other different bhajans and kirtans, they like that aspect of kirtan. It's fine. At least it is creating a base for them. When that base gets established properly, probably in the next life or the second life or the third life later down the line from this point, they will probably get established in chanting or maybe even more. Who knows that? So we should also measure our preaching efforts not from the point of view of how we are going to see the result in next 2 months, 3 months, or etc. We have to understand that every living entity functions differently. Consciousness is a very dynamic thing. It's not like a bracketed thing. It's not a collective measure that within every 6 months, the more efforts you put, the more a person becomes uh, yeah, he can become a devotee from that external sense, but devotee from consciousness is a very long journey. So understanding that, one should not get discouraged. One needs to not be so, see, Prahlad was brave, Prahlad was courageous, Prahlad was bold, but he was not, he was very gracious. That's a very main quality which is very important. He was gracious. He had the sense of whom he was talking to and how he was conveying the message. So that's what we have to do. To all his friends, he was not just talking Vishnu, Vishnu or Narayan, Narayan. He was talking about the philosophical aspects of life. So we have to talk about philosophical aspects of life. And at some point of time, we have to introduce that the philosophy will be sustained only when there is an element of chanting or proper sadhana or taking shelter. The core of all this is meditation, right? What we do, japa meditation. So at some point of time, you may want to introduce that. Let's say you also meet a person who is not more inclined to chanting. There is no harm in making that person getting attracted to God in some other feature or some other form, or even through the form of being just a very good person. There is absolutely no problem. You should read text number 5.3 and 5.4 of Bhagavad Gita after our class. Read those two texts and the purports which Prabhupada mentions. Brilliant purports. You'll get more insights in that.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, this is Rajnandini. Thank you for wonderful class, Prabhu. I have one question, Prabhu. So one of the point you mentioned, like Prahlad Maharaj was going through so many things. His father was putting him through so many suffering, but he didn't even pray to Lord for, his safety. Like he was not even praying to the Lord, okay, save me from all those things. And that's actually the pure devotional, right? You want to just serve Krishna without any selfless motive. But we as a sadhaka practicing devotee, if somebody is going through sufferings in around you, or if somebody is very sick, so we go and pray to Krishna, right? We chant Narasimha Kavach, we pray for their good health and recovery. So is this a selfish motive in performing your devotional service? Is this you're asking something Krishna in return of your, whatever?
No, see, again, it's not that we don't pray for anybody, and it's not even that we don't even pray for ourselves. That's not the point. Because see, it's not that, okay, because Prahlad Maharaj did not pray, I will not pray. Aisa kabhi, it never really works like that, because aspect of prayer is not exactly that I'm positioning myself in front of God and holding my hands and what I speak. I may not speak any of my prayers, but the hankerings of my heart are the prayers. Those are the exact calls which I'm making to Krishna every day. I may not speak. I may say, Krishna, okay, I did my chanting today. Please bless me with pure devotion. As I said, but then deep in my heart, by other 22 hours of the day, I'm thinking, I want this, I want that, I want to do this, I want to achieve that, I want to destroy that person did this, I have to take care of that person, I want to teach him a lesson, and so on. 100 things keep going on. That is my prayer. The calling of my heart, the hankerings of my heart are exactly what are my prayers composed of. Krishna is Paramatma, he hears those things. He does not hear those external sounds. External sounds are cosmetic. So in either case, it's not that we should not pray. Actually, even the art of getting attracted to Krishna is yena kena prakarena manah Krishna niveshayet. The Bhagavatam speaks. Akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udaradhi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purushata parama. Right? Yajeta purusha param. That even if you have no desires or your heart is full of desires, earnestly pray to Lord only to fulfill. At least first fix your mind. Say, Jo, whatever I have, I want to get, I will get from Him only. Even if I don't get, I will complain, I'll complain to Him. If I feel that things are unfair and He is not fair to me, I will complain to Him. That is fine. Akama, sarva kama, moksha kama, whatever it is, yajeta purusha param. That's how it is approached. Because a person cannot synthetically modify his prayers just because I read Kunti Maharani is saying, my dear Lord, give me more troubles. I will also now start saying, my dear Lord, please give me more troubles because in that way I can take shelter of you. No, it's not like that. And Krishna also understands Krishna will understand that, oh, today he's speaking something, maybe kahin se to he has just heard something from somewhere. He's copy pasting like we do forwards on WhatsApp forward. So like that we have forwarded Kunti Maharaj's shlokas to him, we have forwarded Prahlad Maharaj's prayers, and that doesn't really work. Prayers are what we need and what are going to be our prayer. So better we pray that, my dear Lord, despite knowing all of these things, my heart is burning for so many things. Somehow please work in a way that both of these things are taken care of. As far as praying for the welfare of devotees, of course, we should pray for not just for devotees, for our own welfare also. That please protect our conditions in a way that our faith is protected. The true prayer is, my dear Lord, like for example, in this COVID situation, I have been told to pray and so many people, I have chanted so many rounds for so many people, but I pray this way, my dear Lord, so and so person has asked me to pray. So I am offering this prayer on his behalf. Please consider the intention of that person. He is trying to approach you, and please consider this as my small offering which I can do to that devotee. But now what will be the end result is not my prayer. My dear Lord, you please do what is needful. This is the prayer such and such devotee is seeking for the physical protection of his family members and this and that. And I also wish the same, because this is my understanding. I cannot extrapolate myself directly as a rishi or probably Kunti Maharani or Prahlad Maharaj. That is unfair. That is not a prayer. Lord will appreciate that only, that okay. But I am not going to superimpose, my dear Lord, strengthen my faith by doing what by doing what I expect you to do. No. This is the prayer given by the devotee and I know him. And it is natural that I have a physical body and I physically know somebody as a friend, as a relative or whatever, as a devotee, whatever. I know him in some way. So it is natural that I am going to pray for their welfare. Now this is in my understanding, in my limited understanding. So my dear Lord, therefore I am making this prayer. Please do what suits you and please strengthen the faith of all of us. So there is absolutely no harm in making such prayers.
Thank
Hare
you,
Krishna.
Prabhu. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranama, all good.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
So, Prabhuji, it was excellent class. So, one question. Um, you spoke about Prahlad Maharaj, how he, instead of, going against of his father, he just accepted, but he was continuing his sadhana or understanding, right? So, and also you told that in our daily life also, right? We should not go against of any management and such like that, right? So I have one question, right,
I
Prabhu?
didn't say you should not go against management anywhere. I said that Prahlad Maharaj knew how to deal with situations of his circumstances and one should not act beyond one's adhikar. Means
Mm,
if I need to go, I have to see the method and also my rights in how to approach and go that way. Yeah. Yes, please continue with
So
your
yeah, similarly, Prabhu, that right, Adhikar, I mean, sometimes we want to perform something, sometimes we feel that we wanted to do in terms of, either service, anything, but sometimes we cannot do because let's say either management or a higher authority is not willing to accept that, right? So in that situation, how do we deal? And that's what I just wanted to say.
So sometimes see, there are two things. First of all, we are not confronting demoniac people. So that's the first criteria. So then when we are confronting people who are already dharmic and who have good intention, so then the problem is first of all minimized to that extent. The problem is then remains is that their small mindedness, probably they do not have that clarity or vision as much as I think I have. So probably there is a misunderstanding between our intellectual capacities to serve or how to serve and the methods of serving, or seriously the management or the leader does not have that aspect in mind at all and has no appreciation on that particular aspect. So in either case, that's not a very destructive thing to have. We should consider this thing that Pandavas during their time, they had issues within their own family which were very intense. Unqualified leadership. That was the problem with Pandavas, right? Duryodhan took charge, Dhritarashtra, unqualified leadership. What were the problems in Ramayana during Ram's time? Unqualified leadership. Manthra and Kaikeyi took charge. They were, means effectively, they were creating the influence in the whole of Ayodhya. So these kind of things are always going to be there. The art of engaging with these things, pursuing it patiently and trying to work out, that is what is needed. In Kali Yuga, what happens that people are losing patience. Unless you see a serious gross manipulation of something where it needs to be confronted, then you can maybe approach the higher management, or at least in ISKCON we have something called ombudsman, or you can send mails to group of the zonal authorities and so on, so that you can do all those things can be done if there is a real gross violation of things happening. Otherwise, what remains is negotiating, the aspect of negotiation, that try to convince that person. And it's always going to be there. I can assure you this particular thing, that in leadership, there is a big thing. Leadership is always being going to be done by senior people. A newcomer cannot do leadership because he has no ideas how the organization runs and what are the necessary aspects to be done as far as maintaining of a temple and community. So always seniors are going to do. The new people have the newer dimensions of newer age, newer exposure, fresh minds. It's a universal principle that newer devotees will always have challenge with the older devotees. Or even in companies, the newer employees always have problem with the old people. Because the old people are used to dealing with situation in their way, in their times. And new people have newer dynamics. So then, and it's always it's not true that the old people are always a problem, but then that communicate, even in family it happens. My father has his own habit of dealing with finances and this and that, and he's say old now, he's going to talk that way, and I am a new guy, 25 years of age, just got degree, and I want to invest in this fashion. Now my father does not understand anything of internet, and I know how to connect the world through internet. So there's going to be a problem in all aspects that way. Negotiation is a key thing. How we negotiate, we persist for that. Now remains one thing. Negotiating to the level that we destroy that person and we destroy us in that process is very detrimental. It doesn't really help. When you see, because you quoted about the aspect of Prahlad Maharaj, see here, when Prahlad Maharaj was challenging his father, he was not disturbed that, okay, my dear father, if you do not agree and if you do not give me space to practice my bhakti, I can still think about Lord in my mind, right? That's what it. He told, I'm going to throw you from the mountain. I'm going to throw you in a snake pit. That is what he was violating the space. Abhi kal se you are not going to talk to any devotee. You are not going to talk to your friends. No going to school. Means Prahlad's space, service, domains got violated. He said, it doesn't matter. I can always serve Narayan, Narayan, Narayan. So ultimately we understand this aspect, that let's say that there is an authority with which you need to deal and that authority is not getting convinced. It's okay. Don't disturb your faith so much that because that authority is not giving you space, it creates a shaking, it shakes the foundation of your spiritual life. No. Practice in your own way. Nobody can stop preaching. Nobody can stop katha. All you need is just meet anybody and start talking and start calling at your home for prasad, and it doesn't matter. Okay, if they maybe an authority or maybe a temple leader can say that, okay, you cannot serve the deities of the temple, maybe you cannot give class in the temple, maybe you cannot do cleaning of pots in the temple, maybe you cannot cook in the temple. That what has gone wrong and why, that's a different subject matter. Even if you are punished for that particular thing, or maybe you are deprived of that particular, those rights there, you are not deprived of bhakti, you are not deprived of your ability to serve, you are not deprived of anything. So you can still do nicely. But largely, in most cases, if you meet, talk and negotiate, and if they say, no, don't come, and then you say, no, but I need you to understand, please, this way, that way, you keep negotiating it. Most of the times it works. And if it really doesn't work, then there is no point disturbing that person and disturbing yourself. Unless there is a gross violation of regulative principles and scams and all those things going. We don't need to just, on small things, not to take quarrels because it doesn't serve anybody. And meanwhile, tolerating some small discrepancies is also part of our own progress also. Wait for the time. A good time will come. If it doesn't come, if you do not get a good time in a bigger institutional environment, you will always evolve to do things individually, And these days you can do so many things.
Thank you,
So
Prabhu.
negotiation is key. Engagement. Negotiate, methods, appeal, all those things are required little bit.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. So should we stop here?
Thank you
Yes.
very much, Jagannath Priya Prabhu. Go ahead, somebody was speaking up.
No, Mataji, you go ahead.
No, Pranath, you wanted to say something?
No, I was saying just thank you, Haribol.
Okay. Thank you, Jagannath Priya Prabhu. It was a very nice class and a very engaging Q&A.
Thank you. Vansha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya
पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय ग्रेस चैतन्य
जगन्नाथ प्रिय प्रभु की
जगन्नाथ प्रभु की
जय हरे कृष्णा
Thank you, Prabhu, for wonderful class. Please come back again soon.
Yes, please come back.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Very nice class.
Prabhuji is not there.